All right, let's dive right into this explainer and dissect a truly chilling story from Scary Pumpkin. It's one that masterfully blends supernatural horror with some very, very real-world fears. We're going to look at exactly how a classic ghost story can be elevated into a powerful social commentary, just by leaning into the incredible, suffocating tension of an enclosed space. So, get comfortable and let's pull apart the anatomy of suspense in this brilliantly crafted tale.
Picture this. Imagine the deep, heavy paranoia that grips you when you realize you're completely alone, yet somehow utterly exposed. Our protagonist is a working woman, and she is absolutely desperate to catch the last train home. As she steps onto this nearly empty carriage, she spots a discarded newspaper lying right there on the floor. The headline practically screams at her, detailing this horrific event where a working woman was thrown from a moving train. Her heart literally stops. In that one quiet moment, this overwhelming sense of isolation just wraps around her like a vice.
And the setting does so much heavy lifting here. It's 1:45 a.m., there's pouring rain, and it instantly establishes this inescapable claustrophobic atmosphere. The story doesn't just tell us she's scared, it makes us feel it. It's pitch black outside, the train hasn't even picked up full speed, and when she tries to open a window, a violent gust of wind and rain immediately forces her to slam it shut. That physical barrier perfectly mirrors her mental state. She is completely trapped in this dimly lit, desolate tube, and there is nowhere to run.
Part 1. The Bystander's Burden. So, over the past month, this terrifying pattern has emerged. Serial thugs have been specifically targeting working women who are commuting late at night. Week 1, Week 2, Week 3, Week 4. Literally every single week there's been another horrific attack. It turns a completely mundane, everyday commute into a literal life-or-death scenario. This timeline isn't just background info. It is the ticking clock of our protagonist's rising panic. 4. Just let that number sink in for a second. 4 women murdered in just 1 month. This single number is the root of the paralyzing fear gripping our main character. Every shifting shadow she sees, every random creak of the train car, it's all being filtered through the lens of those 4 tragic victims. For her, this late-night journey isn't just an inconvenience anymore. She feels like she's inevitably next in line. And here is where it gets really messed up, because this mirrors her own deepest psychological torment. Exactly a month ago, she was sitting on a train just like this one. She woke up to a commotion and witnessed something unthinkable: thugs brutally beating a woman. But here's the devastating part. She, along with every other passenger, did absolutely nothing to help. She sat there frozen as they threw the victim off the speeding train. Now she's terrified that this imminent danger is the universe bringing that exact nightmare straight back to her doorstep.
So the absolutely crucial point here is that this supernatural story is deeply grounded in the unsettling reality of bystander apathy. Our protagonist is haunted by her own inaction way before any actual ghost shows up. It brilliantly forces us to ask ourselves, what would you do? If you saw someone in danger, would you step up, or would you freeze just like she did? The guilt of the bystander effect is the real monster setting the stage.
Part 2. The Nightmare Blur.
Okay, so just as she is spiraling into this completely debilitating fear, the doors slide open. Another passenger steps into the empty carriage. It's a young, incredibly beautiful working woman, and she looks just utterly exhausted. She sits right down by the door and almost immediately closes her eyes. Our protagonist watches her, absolutely terrified because she knows exactly how vulnerable this new arrival is. And then the silence completely shatters. 2 men aggressively board the train car. Their faces are wrapped in scarves, leaving only these cold, calculated eyes visible. And the very second they step on, their gaze locks dead onto the sleeping young woman by the door. For the protagonist, it's happening all over again. It is a literal carbon copy of the terrifying scenario she witnessed weeks ago. Her brain basically short-circuits. She's so terrified she actually slips into a state of shock, having this vivid, horrifying nightmare of the girl begging for her life before being thrown from the train. But suddenly, bang! A deafening noise jolts her awake. The nightmare is real. A violent, brutal struggle has erupted right inside the carriage. But does she jump in to help? Nope. Her paralyzing fear completely takes over, and she scrambles in pure, unadulterated panic to hide beneath the seats, just cowering in the dark while this chaotic violence explodes right above her.
Part 3. Supernatural Justice.
So, the violent clash ends, but it doesn't end with the thugs victorious. They are the ones who get utterly defeated. They are overpowered, beaten back, cornered, and eventually handed over to the police.
But the explanation for what happens next defies all logic. The protagonist is still cowering under the seat, expecting the worst. I want you to really consider the impossible reality here. Who actually fought off two hardened, violent attackers to save the day?
Here is the big reveal, the absolute game changer of the entire narrative. As the dust settles, the protagonist glances down at that blood-stained newspaper she saw when she first boarded. She looks at the photograph of the murdered victim in the paper, and then she looks right up at the beautiful, powerful young woman who just took down the attackers. They are the exact same person. The woman who just fought back is the ghost of the victim from the newspaper.
Look at how perfectly the pieces fit together here. The physical savior and the supernatural spirit are one and the same. The working woman who was murdered by thugs returns as this unstoppable force. The victim who is thrown from a train is now the one fiercely fighting back. She holds the men at bay for the authorities, finally achieving ultimate vengeance from beyond the grave. It's just a stunning, total reversal of power.
Part 4. The Real-World Lesson.
So what does this all mean? Justice for the restless soul. It's an incredible twist for sure, but the genius of this story isn't just the scare factor. It's not just a simple tale of a ghost haunting a train. Yes, it uses a spirit's revenge to deliver justice to the killers, absolutely. But more importantly, it serves to highlight and punish the silent complacency of society. The protagonist has to live with the really uncomfortable realization that the dead literally had to rise to do what the living were too cowardly to do.
It's a realization that forces us to look right in the mirror. The ghost isn't the horror here. The ghost is actually the hero. The real horror is human apathy. So I'll leave you with this final thought. If you were riding on that midnight train, surrounded by darkness and pure fear, would you have succumbed to the bystander effect, or would you have found the courage to step forward?